All right, and now, as is tradition, he runs a race, crushes it, jumps on the CITIUS Mag podcast about a little over 24 hours now since the U.S. half marathon record has been broken for the first time in 18 years at the hands of Conner Mantz, 59:17, an incredible performance in cold and windy conditions. Conner, I raise my Olipop to you. What an incredible run in Houston. 24 hours later, how are you feeling?
Well, first off, thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me back on the podcast. Or is my cup of
You're
water?
essentially a co-host at
Yeah,
at
yeah.
this point.
Or is my cup of water to you? Because I don't have an Olipop. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. It's kind of this like surreal moment because it's not like a marathon where your legs are just trashed afterward. Like yeah, they're definitely sore. They're definitely tired. But I'm like, I don't feel like I did anything special. It felt like it in the moment, but then like right now, it just kind of feels like I don't know. There's not as much hype. Like there was, but now I'm like, oh okay. It just feels like I had a good race. I, I don't know.
Well, it feels like you're right back to work, right? Because it's like this morning, again, I open up Strava. I do this every single time. Before we jump on the podcast, I see, all right, what did Connor do this morning before we talk? And typically after a marathon, it'd be like a couple easy miles. 10 miles this morning. You made it back, escaped the winter storm that was going to hit Houston,
Right.
and you're back in Utah. So essentially, like, it was a really hard effort on Sunday, and now it's just back to Boston training.
Yeah. Yeah. That's essentially what it is. I'm definitely like I took some. I don't know. I felt like I took some time to celebrate. I ate some Tres Leches cake. I that we got at a Mexican restaurant, and then I'm trying to think. I feel like I did a lot more. I don't know. I had some pizza, good
All right.
Mexican food, I guess, at the Mexican place, but um, nah, had some fun, but I don't know. Life goes on. Like it's not like I set an American record, and the next day there's like other than like a million text messages and Instagram messages. uh, it's just like life just keeps moving. So
Yeah. All right, so let's dive into the performance, but we have to kind of start with, thank you first off for letting our cameras come by a couple times in December and January to film with you. And it was interesting because I guess right before Mac was supposed to take the trip out in early January, I think this was like right before or right after New Year's, he gets a text from you saying that like, hey, you're a little banged up and you're not sure, what this whole thing means, I guess explain to people what happened. People see it when you're on the arm bike and you explain it there. But what was sort of the workout that briefly broke you and kind of put this whole thing in jeopardy for a little bit?
so it was supposed to be like a pretty chill workout. So that's what makes it kind of funny is like it wasn't a like a hard workout that I was going to be struggling with after. It was supposed to be 8 by 400, 8 by 200. Um, and it was like, well, like we're doing the workout and the 400s are like I don't know, just slower than 3K pace. I think we averaged like 61 high or 62 low or something like that. It very chill. We were getting 60 seconds rest. Um, and it felt really easy. So I was like, Coach, can we? Well, first Casey Klinger turns to me and says, "Do you think we could do 12 of these?" Because we had a big workout that Thursday that Mac was actually going to be there for, and um, I was like, yeah, I think so. Like, let's ask Coach. And so like after the seventh one, I'm like, Coach, can we do 12 of these? And he's like, yeah, I think with how you guys are looking, we'll do 12 400s and like and then keep it at 8 200s. And he's like, no, if you're gonna do 12 400s, you might as well do, you know, 10 200s. And I was like, oh, okay. Like that makes sense. Like, don't add more on the easy side of the workout. Actually, I think I asked if we could drop some of the 200s. Anyway, and then we started doing 200s, and I feel great. It just feels like a lot of fun. you're just running fast with your friends, and it's me, Casey, Clayton, just switching the lead back and forth on every rep. It might have been, I think another one of the BYU guys joined us for the 200s, named Isaac Hedengren. You may have heard of his sister Jane. She's pretty fast. Mm-hmm. But Isaac was joining us for the 200s, and that was just like our little group, and there was the second group, and so it was just fun. Like we were just running some fast 200s, and then after the last one, I'm like right after the last one, it was like, oh, there's a little bit of pain in my quad, and then I cool down, and it like starts getting a little bit worse. I'm like, well, that's weird. Like that doesn't seem right. And then I went to when we were going to weightlift, I'm like, tell the weights coach, I'm like, hey, my quad's a little sore. I've had this injury before. I don't want to do it again.
Yeah, when was that the last time you hurt that quad?
March. Well, I had a hiccup with New York's training. I took a couple days off for pretty much the same thing. But this one, it was like the one before New York. Like, so that would have been like August, September I heard it. Or I should say I re-aggravated it. But March and April was where I had like the really bad tear. And that was... I kept running on it then. It was pretty detrimental. Then after talking to the weights coach, I was like, it's New Year's Eve, and I was gonna go like, hang out with some friends, like until like 9 o'clock or something. I was gonna go to bed pretty early still. But then like I text my PT before I go to double, and I'm like, hey, this kind of hurts, and he's like, well, I don't have any openings, and I don't have any openings right now, but I could stay late, and you could come in, and we could get it looked at and dry needle it or something. And I was like, all right, I'll come on in. And he was looking at it, and he was kind of like scraping it, doing I don't know what those metal scrapers, spoon, knife things. Yeah. Can't remember what they're called, but he's or it's Graston. He's working on it with Graston, and he's like, this is really tender. You probably shouldn't double. He's like, maybe try to run slow, but I probably wouldn't even do that. And so I came home, tried to run slow, and after about a quarter mile, it just really hurt again. So I was like, all right, that's it. I'm just gonna stop. And I did go out with friends. I just kind of sulked for like an hour or two.
Oh no.
And then I just went to bed. My wife was like, oh crap, like, not this again. Like, she just, she's so caring, and she's just like, come on, like, you can't get hurt again. Like, you've already had this injury. And the last time I ran through it for like a week and a half, and this time it was like, the moment I started feeling pain, I just stopped. And so I started, the next day I was swimming and doing the arm bike, and I just texted Mac and was like, I probably wouldn't come out. Fortunately, a doctor at Intermountain Healthcare was like willing to come in on New Year's Day, and wow. That was really nice because there was, it kind of gave me some more answers. He did ultrasound imaging, and then later we got an MRI, and it was just really nice of him to do that because he didn't have to. When we went to the hospital, it was completely closed, and at least that sports medicine section, there was like nobody in there. Like, he's unlocking the door, and we're walking in this giant doctor's office area, and I don't know. Then I started just doing everything I could to get it better. That it made sense with dry needling and seeing a physical therapist, and then Christian Allen's like, see, there's a pediatrician. Right, that's like foot and ankle, right?
A podiatrist.
Podiatrist, that's way off. Anyway, I went to see a podiatrist. He's like, use this laser and it should help. And Christian was like swearing by it. He's like, this thing works so much. And so I was doing what my athletic trainer called the shotgun method. It's you just like, you don't know what's gonna be the right thing that like moves the needle, but we were just doing everything I could, doing everything we could as like there was like a whole team of guys helping me to help my quad heal quicker, and In the meantime, just swimming and being on the arm bike, and occasionally the uh, cross training. No, not cross training. The arc
The
training.
arc trainer.
I'm like, I literally have one. It's like the only form of
Arc
cross training thing I have in my house, but
is the
it
arc
is
trainer.
the arc trainer. So I was yeah, going and doing these different things, and yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going into way more detail than you probably.
No, I mean this is good. I think a lot of people, because that was a big thing. It's like you went dark on Strava, and everyone was wondering what the hell was up, and
Yeah,
this is it.
yeah, yeah. It was brutal. Um, yeah, it's crazy that like the race went so well because 2 weeks ago from today, I was the first time I tried to run, and I got out like 5 miles with the team, and I'm like, I think ten's calling it good. Like the doctor said, I should be able to run on Monday, and I got out 5 miles, and it started hurting, and I was just having the worst run back ever. So it was like I'm 5 miles from the school. It hurts, but it doesn't hurt that much, so I'm just running slow. And then I was like, well, if I run on my toes and put a little bit more pressure on my calves, it hurts my quads less. So I'm gonna kind of run a little funny, and I'm like running on this busy street instead of running on the trail that the team runs in to just do anything I can to like relieve pressure of my quads. And we were just talking about that today. Um, it's crazy to think that 2 weeks ago I ran and it was such a bad idea.
But then it was in the little bonus episode that we put out. You and Coach Easton are kind of like retracing the last couple weeks, and it was now I guess from today, 11 days ago that you guys got decided you guys were in for Houston. And I remember even talking with your agents and how we were kind of going about editing the whole series. We're like, all right, I guess like we just don't know Connor's status for Houston just yet. And then we kind of got like the green light that it was like you were gonna go. And what were the signs 11 days ago that said you were good to go?
Um, so we decided. So okay, that Monday, I ran and I shouldn't have. I ran farther than I should have. So I got it worked on. I guess that was the day I tried dry needling, and um, I don't know if it was that per se was the that or the 5 days before that helped. But then the next day I woke up and I felt like not I didn't feel any pain. So I was like, okay. And Monday I woke up with no pain, and Sunday I woke up with no pain. So I thought Monday would be just fine. That Tuesday I did a 5 mile run on my treadmill. Pretty. I think it was maybe it wasn't that slow. I think I started pretty slow and then kind of worked into it. Um, and I just was like, I'm not gonna try anything. I'm just gonna do like my treadmill, and if I make it, I'm not gonna try anything fast. But then I just told myself, if I make it 5 miles without pain, then the next run I'll try will be 6 miles. And it was kind of like this. I don't know. Maybe I was going about it too aggressively. It worked out, but now I look back at it and I'm like, I was being way too impatient with this. Um, but I did 5 miles that morning. Then I went and swam 5,000 yards, and then that evening I did 6 miles on the treadmill. And it was like, if it had any pain, the reason I was doing it on the treadmill is because if I had any pain, I would just step off. So after that 5 mile, 6 mile, next day I did 8 miles and 9 miles, and then on Thursday, Coach had decided Clayton was doing 3x3 mile, pretty similar to what like Joe Klecker was doing, where it was going to be a fast one at half marathon pace and one at more tempo effort, and then another one at half marathon pace. And Coach was going to have me just run like 5 flat pace, then marathon pace with Clayton, and then half marathon pace. And that would be the workout. Like if this goes well, if 5 flat pace doesn't hurt it, but like marathon pace does, then we'll step off. Wherever I have pain, that's when we'll stop. And if I don't have pain, I'll just do those 3 sets. And if I can feel good the rest of the day, then I'll go and race. But if I didn't feel good after that, I was just going to stop there. So it was that workout. It was like that gave us confidence to say, you know what, let's just plan on it. Let's decide, like, let's not cancel the flight. Let's not change anything, but let's just decide that I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Wait. So what did you end up splitting in that workout?
I think the first set, I think it was like 4:56. I got a little impatient at the end. Um, and just kind of like opened up for like a quarter mile. Plus, coach started Clayton like a minute and a half back, and I saw Clayton catching us, so I was like, "Oh no!" Um, then on the second one, I think it was like 4:46. That's usually what I try to hit for marathon pace. Um, I call it my goal marathon pace because that sounds a lot better than when I say marathon pace. Um, and then on the last set, I ran. I think I went like through the mile in like 4:24, 4:25, and I think I averaged 4:29 though. It was a little windy, so kind of similar to Houston. Like the miles with the wind at your back, you're running faster, and then you have the wind at your face, you're running slower. Um, but yeah, I ran. I think it was a 4:29 average, and that was like, okay, if I can do that, it was so hard, so tough. But it was like, if I can run 4:29 pace and there's no pain in my quad, then I might as well try to run the race. Like, I don't have much to lose. It's not like there's, other than re-aggravating it, but at that point I'll just step off on the
Yeah.
course.
So then your body felt fine coming off of that the next couple days.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what gave me the confidence to just, let's go for it. Let's try it out. Um, Still was a little worried. I was very worried about how long the distance was. But then we did a workout on Tuesday that felt very, very easy. It wasn't that long of a workout. It wasn't insanely intense, but things clicked really well, and that gave me confidence that, oh, like the American record might actually, like, that might be a possibility. Again, like I might be able to actually compete.
Yeah. There was that comment that was left, I think, on Clayton Strava, where he was like, Mance told me to tell the rest of you that he just got a case of the hiccups. What kind of hiccups causes a person to run this fast? And so that was true.
Yeah, it was a hiccup in training. I was just trying to. Clayton just said everybody's like asking me on Strava what happened to you, and I don't know what to say because it's kind of. He's like, it's your privacy. I'm not going to tell everybody your medical history.
Yeah.
And so I was like, just tell him I got some hiccups or something. And we were just joking in the sauna when I said that, and he did it, and it was hilarious because people were responding or commenting on my old runs, like "Good luck with the hiccups" and whatnot.
All right. So then you make it out to Houston. Press conference happens. You're asked about the American record and your level of fitness. And I think up until this point, even with like, the extra sort of hype that we were bringing to the race, following Joe, Clayton, and you into it, it felt heightened, right? That like, it was like, oh, people really want to see this thing go down. And for the first time in a while, we do have the talent and the guys to be able to go after it. But for you, hearing you speak at the press conference too, like it felt like there was a little bit of doubt still that was in your head, right?
Yeah, I didn't. There's two ways I really want to kind of explain this. First, I just looked at the weather, and it was like 14
Yeah.
mile an hour winds predicted at that time, and they even were. I think they were higher than that when we raced, but it was like 14 mile an hour winds with 28 mile an hour gusts. And the closer we got to the race, the wind kept going higher. The feels like temperature was predicted to be like 19 degrees, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's miserable. Like that is so cold. So between those two, I was like, this is gonna be tough. If the American record goes down, I bet nobody's gonna want to lead it. Like Pacers can do a good job, but most of the time they don't. Which, by the way, Amon Kemboy did a fantastic job.
He did.
Most of the time, Pacers don't do a very good job, and I can be very frustrated with them. So I was like, yeah, I don't know if it's gonna happen. Like, we have the guys to do it. I don't know if it's gonna happen. And then I also, I don't know. In my mind, the other reason I had some doubts was I just didn't know if my injury put me back, so much, like, or if I was gonna be healthy enough. So it was like, or if I was gonna be the best American. Like, to be honest, I could go and I could have ran what Hillary Borg ran, and he could have ran what I ran, or Joe Klecker could have ran what I ran, or Clayton Young could have ran what I ran. I was pretty confident that somebody could do it until I saw the weather forecast, and then I was like, well, it's probably not going to happen. Like somebody, at first I thought it would go down for sure, and then it was the weather, and then I also saw like I might not even be a factor in it, so I didn't want to go out and be like hyping it up like the American record's going down this week, because there were a lot of things I couldn't control.
At the end of this whole weekend, and just this is skipping over to some of the results, I think one thing I do commend is how out there Joe put himself, right? Like he's had crazy good workouts. Like if you see all of his stuff on Strava, like he's very clearly fit. This is his first time out at the distance. That I give Joe massive props for, leaning into the whole thing of believing that it was possible, because in the end it did happen. He didn't have the race that he wanted, but is he one of those guys who's capable of running under that previous record? I definitely think so. And I think like someone like Joe, I'm sure he's sitting there a little bit disappointed at what he ended up running, but
Right.
I think a lot of athletes could learn from you guys going into this race, being like, hey, like, put these declarations out there, and if it doesn't happen, like it's not the worst case scenario. There's other chances to make it happen. So what I'm kind of saying is that I hope more athletes do stuff like this.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of fear of hyping yourself up before a race, or hyping up something like this, because then if you don't perform, everyone's like, well, you suck then. Or like, oh, you're
Yeah.
just wanting it for the publicity of it. But I think it definitely helped me, going in going in expecting to run hard, to run fast. I think it helped Clayton Young, especially in his training. I think the race didn't end up playing out very well for him, but it was like, I mean, the week before the race, it was like, well, Clayton, I don't think I'm going to be competing up front, so like you better go get that record before Joe gets it. It was like that was kind of my joke with him. It was like, Clayton, I don't know if I'm going to be up there, so this is on you. And I think the hype definitely helped a lot more people want to be in that race. I don't know when
Yeah.
Hillary committed to that race, but I committed as soon as I heard Joe was running it, because it seemed like that was the right move to do. Like if Joe Klecker's going for that American record, I want to be in that race, and I believe
Yeah.
and I believed that Joe could get that record. His training looked phenomenal. Like, and I don't know, the 10K and half marathon I think are very similar. Um, Clayton committed pretty late to that race. I think it was like not even, just like 2 weeks out from the race, just over 2 weeks out. And it was like Clayton was the only reason he committed at all was because he started like having some of the best workouts of his life, and he was feeling smooth, and he was just super excited. He's like, well, I need to jump in something now because things are clicking really, really well. And it was, I think, the hype of everybody going into this race knowing somebody's good. I mean, last fall I thought Hillary Borg was going to get the record in Valencia. Um, and you never know how good Morgan Pearson's going to be. So it was like there was going to be so many people in this field that are going to want to run fast, and if they're like a lot of them are American, who are going to run under a certain time, like the rest of us are going to push ourselves to that new limit.
So then in Houston, race day comes. Well, first off, it's such an early start. What time did you wake up?
I woke up at 4,
4, and then it's a 6:45 start.
6:45 start. Woke up at 4, went and got some food, went back to my hotel room and was going to try and fall back asleep because I was just so tired. Um, but in the end, I think I laid in bed for like 5 minutes, and then my alarm went off, and I was like, oh, I really gotta like get going.
What I do love about Houston is that logistically, it's one of the easiest races. Like it doesn't take all that much to get to the start and everything, and so
Not at all.
it's really well run. All right, so then as everyone is getting ready for it, you see what the weather is, you feel how cold it is, you can sense the wind a little bit. what were the vibes sort of telling you? Like, and what was the race plan devised with Coach Eyestone? I'm assuming this time around for sure was separate from you and Clayton, but before the race goes off, is there an expectation that, all right, there's going to be multiple guys going with Amon Kemboy, the pacemaker?
Yeah, Coach Easton was like, just tuck in, don't try and lead it. Don't try and lead when you're running against the wind. That's more of, he didn't say that exactly. He just said don't try and lead it, but like that was what I got, because you don't, if you're tucking in when you're going with the wind, you're kind of messing the guy up in front of you. You're actually making it more difficult for them to run hard. Um, and so like when we were running into the wind, I would be tucked in, and running with the wind, I would always try and get on the outside because it's easier that way for them. Um, but the big thing for me, coach didn't give me as specific of a race plan because I think he didn't want to put some big expectation on me. Just with the injury and everything, it was just like, hey, how's your quad feeling? Are you ready to go still? And I thought that was the right way to go about it, just so I didn't feel overwhelmed. I didn't want to go in and feel like I had to set the American record. But yeah, the vibes at the start were different, for sure. It was just so cold. Like I was wearing my shorts, and then I had a pair of like my running tights on, and then I had some like rain jacket and rain sweats on, just a ton of layers on, because I was just like, this is too cold. And I don't know, I was trying to see if I didn't bring like a normal long sleeve for some reason, but I bought like a thermal, like super thick long sleeve. So I was texting um, my Nike rep Paul and was like, hey, could I just wear this thermal long sleeve and like not have to put the jersey on over it? And he's like, you could wear that, but you should probably put the jersey on over it. And I was like, well, that's not gonna fit me. He's like, do whatever's most comfortable. And I was like, well, I'll just do the jersey and arm sleeves and gloves and hat. And so I was like, that might be a bad idea because it's so cold.
Yeah.
Um, but other than that, like it seemed pretty relaxed. I warmed up with Clayton and Adam Wood, um, who's kind of I don't know, a lot of people know Adam now because of his YouTube, but he ran at BYU with me, so it's fun to warm up together with the group.
All right, I'm going to use your Strava recap to help guide us through
Yeah,
the race as it played out. So, got out well, right behind Amon Kemboy, running into very cold crosswind, stayed close, 4:39 first mile, needed to speed it up. Next 2 miles pretty quick, 5K, 14:02. The group got really small, about five of us. At that point, did it surprise you to look around, and did you notice that, all right, Joe's not here, Morgan's not here, Clayton's not here. It's just a small group that's going for it today.
yeah, yeah. And I kind of looked around I think 4 or 5 miles. It was after 5K. I was super surprised how few people were in that pack, but it was kind of, I don't know, it was kind of nice because I felt really good at that time, and I realized I had a big enough pack of people to run with, but there weren't any Americans in it, so I wasn't worried about getting beat by any of these guys. It was like, all right, if I'm with this pack, like the American record's going down, and I'm gonna be the one to have it. Like if nobody's even trying, and I mean, as the went on, I definitely had to kind of get back into reality and realize I'm still racing. But yeah, looking around and seeing, I didn't look back, but when we were running with the wind, I looked to the side once and just saw that there were four of us, and or four other guys other than me, and I was like, oh, this is pretty nice. Like I feel good, and I felt terrible that first mile when we were running into the crosswind, and my stomach, like, Nike's jerseys are like they have a lot of holes in them, so that like when it's hot outside, you can cool easier.
Oh no.
Which which I've told them I want them, like I want bigger holes. I want the swoop to go down more. Like I want it a little bit more breathable. But yesterday it was like, this is so cold. My stomach just
You're
got
like
like
you're
freezing.
practically shirtless.
Yeah, you're practically shirtless. My stomach's like just freezing. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. But yeah, it was just a big surprise to see that pack, and how small it was, but it was kind of encouraging because it was like, in a way, the perfect size to work with.
Behind you, it was really funny on the broadcast. Everyone just kind of lined up. It was like a Congo line where everyone was just blocking the wind for the next person. And it was like, oh, I guess like it looks like a 10K on a track. Everyone's strung out because this wind was crazy. And then you note the wind. You said after the first left-hand turn, we began to run with a strong tailwind. This made us speed up, felt pretty easy, began to think the American record might go down today despite the cold and windy weather. The next right turn, the pack passed Amon, and he looked like he was going to step off, but we encouraged him to keep going. As we ran into the wind, we tucked in behind him. When not, I ran next to him. At 10K, I saw 28 flat, felt really relaxed. So, but somewhere between 5K, 10K, that's when it really settled into your brain. You were like, all right, American record chase is on.
Right, right. At like 7K, I don't know what we were at 7K. It was like 19 minutes and something seconds. It was 59 flat pace because they had the little, or 58, 50 something pace because they had on the back of the lead vehicle your expected finish pace. And I was like, holy crap, this feels great. We're a third of the way in. I essentially have 15 seconds in the bank that if I run the pace, if I run the American record pace the rest of the way, I'll still break it by 15 seconds.
That's some quick math.
Just doing some little bits of math there. But it was like, this feels really good. I could do this for 40 more minutes. It was like I don't know, when we hit like 10 minutes, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this for 50 more minutes. But then when we hit or just under 20 minutes, I was like, I can do this for 40 minutes. Like 7K was about where I was realizing this is a day where I feel really good and it doesn't feel like I'm pressing that hard, but the clock says we're running fast.
So then tailwind made things relax. I knew we would get cold and exhausted. When we hit the long headwind portion, it started around 8.5 and it went to 11. How bad was that part?
It was pretty. It was bad because it wasn't that hard when I wasn't leading, but then they would. The guy that won, Gobena.
Yeah,
Do you pronounce it?
I think so.
Gobena wanted to lead, and anytime you went like to the side of him, he'd speed up. He didn't want anybody else to lead, but then he would like slow down to like, I don't know. Once we hit 15K, it'd feel good. I'd feel good when I was like behind him, and then Gabriel would make a move, and then like Gobena would speed up, and I'd just have to like make a hard move to catch up, and then Gobena would slow down when nobody was running next to him. So it was kind of like, okay, I just want to run fast. Like I'm not. My A goal this race is to break the American record. Like that's the top. Like if I'm fifth, if I'm sixth, if I'm first, I didn't really care. I was just concerned about the American record was all that was going through my mind.
Did you even know what the prize money was at this race?
I knew that it was 10,000 for first and 1,000 for fifth, based off of that's what it was 2 years ago. But I've tried to stop thinking about prize money in races. So I was like, all right, like that means second's probably not that bad, and third's probably not that bad, and fourth's not that bad. I just want this American record. I didn't know that. I found out later there was a bonus for the American record and there was a huge bonus for the course record. But if I had known that, I think I would have raced a little bit differently. But it was all about, I want to conserve as much energy because in 2023 when I ran here, I hit mile 11 and then I died for a mile. Like I ran, I think like 450 something. So we're running into the wind and I'm like, I'm just going to conserve energy. And then we passed Coach Eyestone and he's like, hey, you've got it, just tuck in. And I was like, he's like, you're going to get the American record. And I kind of like got hyped. Even though he said tuck in, I was like, all right, I've got it. These guys were slowing down. And so I sped up and went to the lead and was leading for a little bit. And then Gobena just passes me and then he slows down again. And I'm like, all right, it's whatever, but I'm going to get this American record. And I'm doing the math in my mind, like, if I run 3-minute Ks the rest of the way, what do I finish at? Or if I run, when we hit a mile split, I'm like, all right, if I hit 5-minute miles the rest of the way, where do I finish at? Just to make the math a little easier. And we hit 16K. and I realized I needed around, I think it was maybe it was 15 minutes for the last 5.1K. That might be off. Maybe it was 14. Might have been 14:30.
Okay.
Anyway, I can't remember anymore. But at 16K, I was pretty confident. 18K, I was pretty confident. And then I was like, wait. I had one moment where I did math wrong, and I was like, oh crap, we're going to have to push at the end and sprint to get this record. And we didn't need to. We were on great pace, but sorry.
I want to skip, I guess,
a lot of
move
emotion.
ahead to, yeah. There was so much going on, I guess, in your head, and it was all happening so fast. All right, so then if we go to 1,000 meters to go, this is kind of what you were describing. Surges are being thrown in. With 200 meters to go, I knew the finish was coming, so I pushed. At the final turn, I saw the clock and was thinking about how I was going to smash the record. With 40 meters to go, I surged to try and win, but went way too late. Gobena also surged and went wide to make me go around him. In hindsight, it was a little frustrating to lose partially to him cutting me off, but at the time, I just care about what time I ran, and I heard I won. When I heard he won, I was a little frustrated. I was a little frustrated and kick earlier or harder, but didn't care because I checked off my A goal for the race, which was to set the record. So, I guess how did that finish? I guess this is the most common question I think you've gotten asked in the press conference afterwards. What is your final, I guess, now that you've had time to watch it back a couple times, your final sort of vantage point of what exactly happened in those final 200 meters?
Well, I definitely when I 120 to go, when I was seeing the clock, I was like, oh, I'm gonna get this. And I was just pretty happy about that. And I just wasn't focused on racing. I kind of went around the guys, but then they kind of passed me, and I was just not thinking too much about it. It's my instincts were trying to kick in, but my thought of, I've done it. This is it. It's not not like the Olympic trials where it's I need to finish. It was I could celebrate for 30 seconds and I've got this American record. I could just be jogging the last 200 meters and I've got it. But then, 40 meters to go, it was oh crap, I need a kick. And I think I ended with a lot of energy. I had a lot left in the tank because I was so focused on conserving. I didn't want to blow up. I didn't want to I don't know. It would be, I'd look really foolish if I went and it was on pace at 15K and then I take the lead and I try to break the rest of the field and I end up running 59:50. I would look really foolish and then those guys are on 59:20. So I didn't want to risk blowing up. I wanted to have those guys to break the win for me, and I would sometimes take the lead, but Gobena and Gabriel Gay really wanted to lead, so I would tuck in, and I looking back at it, I'm he was definitely running wide, definitely trying to push me on the outside, and that's frustrating. I didn't really care after because he did all the leading. And then somebody told me there was a 20 grand bonus for the course record. And I was like, holy crap, that's a ton of money. And so I heard that yesterday afternoon and I was like, oh, why didn't I try harder? In the moment it was I've got the American record, that's all I care about. But then I heard that it was a $22,000 difference between first and second, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I didn't know there was any bonus for the course record, so I was like, I don't care about winning this one. I just wanted the American record. I just cared about beating all the other Americans who I thought were going to run the course record, or not the course record, the American record. So I was pumped and so excited immediately after, and then after it was oh, it's .01, I was oh, that was really close. I definitely had a lot more in me, but whatever. I know I could run this pace now for 15 miles. I'm confident in that. Take out the headwind at the end though. Let's just say we don't have to do the last 2 miles and do a headwind, and I could keep that pace going for 2 more miles. but no, that difference.
The money stings.
Yeah, it was hearing that made me be like, and I mean, maybe this is just the fault of me as a natural man. I'm just like, oh dang, yeah, he definitely ran wide, definitely made me run farther. Like he could have just ran straight, and then we could have really dueled it out. But no, he had to make me run farther. And
You're at the airport and you're like, "Where's the protest tent?" Like, I
right,
need
that's
to cancel
exactly
my
where I
flight. I
was.
need
I
to get
was
back.
like, I was at the airport and I was like thinking it through, and I was like, holy crap, like, um, this sucks. And
You
I
could be
still,
flying back first class if it wasn't for
yeah, yeah,
if it wasn't for
exactly. Oh,
that.
it was like I was just thinking, I was like, man, that's a car right there. I mean, I could get a car that has like proper heating and all this stuff. No, I'm like, would I actually, or am I just too much of a cheapskate in the end that I probably wouldn't even spend the money? I'm like, no, I definitely would. I would do something special, but
A random thing that just came to mind. After setting an American record, does do you fly Comfort Plus? Are you like in row 20 something on the plane back to Utah? Like what does that look like? 'Cause it's funny for me to always think of sometimes when I get on these flights to Eugene and there's like all these other track people on the plane
right,
and it's like I'm sitting in like I don't know if I'm closer up to the front like in row 5 or 6 and then someone like a world championship gold medalist is sitting in like 17B or whatever
yeah.
it is. So where were you sitting on the flight back?
So that's actually a funny story too. I don't know if you've met Todd Garner. He's kind of
Yeah.
like the I don't know, one of the Utah people that just loves to help out. And he flew out for the race, and he was flying back first class, and I had 15A, I think was my seat, or 15C. It was a window seat, exit row. Like I'd chosen it beforehand, and I was gonna just try and sleep. And he's like, no, you can't do that. Like he's like, I'm in first class, I'm in 2A, take my seat. I'm like, are you sure? Like I don't really want to like. I mean, I'm way smaller than anybody else in first class, that's for sure. Like I have very short legs. I have the legs of like a 5'5" person, a 5'4" person. They're just so small for my height. Um, or so well, and I'm a short guy anyway, so I'm like, no, you don't need to do this. He's like, no, like you just set an American record. This should be like a way that you celebrate. So I actually flew back first class.
There you go.
So it was kind of fun. Like,
First time?
no, I've been upgraded. Well, my wife's family is in Fresno,
Okay.
and because I fly a lot, I every time I go to Fresno, I get upgraded to first class.
There you go.
So not my first time, but and I think
Do they do
Nike's
they come around with like did you get any special you get a free drink, something anything like that? Any
I mean,
treat? Or did you just pass out and fall
no,
asleep?
I got they had a meal, like a full on meal. So
Nice.
got a meal, and I that was it. I just got some water. Got to
There you
hydrate
go.
up, you know.
All right, let's
They
take
didn't have lollipops on the plane. I was trying to describe what I wanted, and as you're sipping your lollipop, I'm like, I could have just said that, you know?
yeah, that's what you could have got. I think Olipop did have a partnership with Delta, I think at one point. Random question, has Ryan Hall gotten in touch since breaking his record?
If I don't think so. I'm still going through. I have about, let's see how many text messages I still have to go through. I've gotten through a lot. I have 95 messages to look back on, and I don't know how many Instagram messages.
That's probably a ton.
So I don't think he has my number. Meb got in touch pretty quickly, and I mean
What
Meb
did
and
Meb
Ryan
say?
were pretty close, so that was cool. Sarah Hall did post something about it, and so I saw that and said thanks, Sarah. And then we messaged back for a bit. If Ryan messaged me, I just haven't seen it yet.
All right. Well, let's jump into some of these listener questions that were submitted. You got a ton here, so we'll try and run through a bunch of these rapid fire. Um, let's see. Someone said, Jordan Runner asks, was he disappointed no other American pushed the pace with him? I mean, it put you at ease for a bit.
Yeah.
You're like, if no one else is around me, then I'll just take it.
Right. I mean, as a fan of the sport a little bit, but as the guy who's competing, no, not really, because it was really nice to be up there and have like you said, I was at ease. I wasn't worried about anybody else.
Uh, Someone, Rhonda with like 5 A's, asks, why does Connor think the half marathon record stood for so long?
I think the reason it stood for so long is because nobody really. There were people who went for it, but I think that one, it's an incredible record, especially like pre super shoes. So I think like Meb had one go at it, but I don't think it went well. And I don't think I think since super shoes, very few people have gone for it. Like Leonard Career kind of did. Ritz was close. Galen's been close. Um, but I think like yeah, since super shoes have been a like everybody's had super shoes. I don't think as many people have gone for it. Like
Does
had a build leading into a half, I should say.
Yeah, Mac and I just talked about this on our like preview podcast. It's just like it's a variety of factors. Everyone's locked into just sort of like if you're an American marathoner, you're training for Boston, and so you don't want to do anything that jeopardizes the appearance fee and like what everything that you're committed to do Boston. So if you're super fit, like don't risk it in Houston. And sometimes I guess the way some contracts are written, the half marathon isn't as incentivized as much as like breaking the American marathon record or some of these other track records. And so there's just a variety of different factors I think that have like added to why it stood for so long. I also think sometimes like the track talent waits a little bit too long to jump into
No.
it. And that was, I think, the key thing that Ryan Hall, the time that he ran his was right before he made his full transition to the roads. And so like his track career up until through 2006 was great enough to springboard him to run a super fast half.
Right.
So it's like a variety of things for sure. One thing I wanted to piggyback off of that is there is a population of people, whether it's on the Let's Run message boards or on Twitter, that have already seen like actually, like it's because of the shoes. Does that bother you at all or not really?
Not too much, because I still got the record. Like I'll take that. There was one time we were driving to a meet, and it was like the Sound Running 10K in 2021. And Coach Stone told me if I broke his school record, I was trying to get the Olympic standard of 27:28. Told me if I broke his school record, he would never bring up super shoes as like a reason of why I broke his record. And I ran exactly 0.11 seconds slower than his record. I fell off pace. I ran some really slow laps and I closed in the 60 and I missed it by 0.11. And in that moment, I was like, holy crap, I just ran like insanely fast. I'm a cross country national champion, but I am not as fast as Coach Stone was in those shoes that like even that were probably not as good as like the Nike Matumbo was. Like the Dragonfly is so much better than anything anyone's ran in before that. And that's like that just gave me a lot of respect for him as an athlete. And his splits were a lot more impressive too. He went out in like 14 flat and came back in 13:41.
So a lot of people asking about the finish and whether you thought you were impeded. Like at the end of the day, like I think we kind of made it clear. It's like it didn't hit you until later on that you're like,
Right.
yeah, watching
Right.
it back, like it did look kind of bad.
Yeah, I think it looks worse than it probably was. Um, but it's hard for me to really like be mad about that when I had so much left in the tank, and I think I could have won if I just pushed harder at the end. Like if I just really sprinted, and so I'm not really mad at him. Is like a little bit frustrated with it, but I'm more just mad at myself for not um, for getting too caught up in the record and not caught up enough in the sprint finish. Because I mean, I don't even think, I don't know what my last 200 was, but I doubt it was faster than 30. And I think I could have ran lot faster than 30.
Um, Someone named Patrick just asks, can you tell us the story of the first half marathon? Because you brought that up, I guess, like on the TV broadcast.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've talked about this before actually
I
on
think so.
here,
Yeah,
but
we did. I think on the first podcast we ever did
yep.
together.
Yeah. So when I was 9 years old, my dad and my older brother ran a half marathon, and I looked up to my dad and my older brother a lot. So I wanted to do a half marathon, and they did it like one to help them bond. My dad wanted to bond with my older brother, and the second reason was my dad really needed to lose weight. It was just kind of heavy, and so they did it. They finished it, and I thought it was so cool that like I was like I want to do that, and my parents were like not until you're 12. They just put that number out there, and so when I was 12, I kind of bugged my dad about it, and he's like, all right, but you have to train. Like that's your caveat. You can't just go and finish it. Like you gotta prepare. So he'd tell me to run 3 or 4 times a week, and there'd be like a 5 mile run or a 3 mile run, um, and Ogden. It was the Ogden Marathon, May of 2009, I think, and I ran uh, an hour 30 something. It was like an hour 33 or an hour 31 or something like that, and I finished it.
Do
And
you have
yeah,
any photos of that?
I don't think so.
Really?
Yeah, my dad might have one.
We'll
I,
have to
I,
try and dig one up. I want to do like
yeah,
a side by side of like how it started and then how it's
well,
going.
that'd be.
'Cause to go from 133 to 59:17, pretty cool.
I may, for being an American record holder in the half, I may have the slowest like debut time that like any
You know
American
what?
record
That's
holder
something
in the
that
half
people should
has.
probably talk about more. It's like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, that he made his debut in 133, and now he's a sub 60 half marathoner.
yeah, yeah. Fun little stat. You too, a
Um,
133 half marathoner could break 60.
it could be you. Um, let's see. Someone asked, Barry P. Meehan asked, will his injury interrupt how he prepares for his next race? Like, will you taper more? I guess like I am curious about that. Like, after you haven't gone through it, you got the green light, you ran an American
Yeah.
record, but are you like now a little bit more cautious or like right back to 100% for Boston?
I'm gonna be more cautious. I'm gonna try and not do as much speed. We were doing like we finished that workout doing 26 seconds for some 200s at the end, and I think that's what did it. I think I'm good at anything like four flat, just sub like even like 58 or 58 per 400. I think that range is gonna be okay, but I'm worried about if I ever go down to that, you know, 26-second 200 again.
Mac was telling me, you want to break 4 this year?
I'd love to. Like that's
When are
been
you
on
going
my
to fit that
bucket.
in?
I don't know. That is, I tell people that like all the time, and I think people are starting to get sick of it because I'm like, I haven't broken four. I don't like, the two questions people ask when they find out you're unprofessional are, have you broken four and have you ran the Boston Marathon? And I just want to break four. One, like to say I did it, but two, like that's the goal every high school kid who runs a mile that's even relatively close has. Like one day they want to be a sub 4 miler, and I owe it to my 14-year-old freshman in high school self, who's like, yeah, I'm gonna break four. I'm gonna do it in high school. I owe it to him to break it. It's been 14 years that he's been that thought has been in the back of my mind. So
We'll see what happens first. You break 4, or I break 5 in the next couple of months.
I like it. I like it. Probably be you breaking five, but
We'll see. That's my goal, and
yeah.
I'm gonna get pretty serious. I think I'm already taking it a little bit serious right now. Um, I guess, what does this do for your thinking for Boston? You touched on it kind of in the little final piece when you caught up with Mac after the race, but I was just looking at because I wanted to look up like what is Gobena's marathon PR. He's a 205 guy. Gabriel Gay, who you beat, is a 203 guy, and even looking at the people you beat at the Olympics, this was, I think, something that was it Todd Gardner or someone else from Rep pointed out to you at the Olympics. It's like if you look at the personal best of the guys that you finished ahead of, like it's very impressive where you placed. And so you've, in speaking to you after New York and after Paris, like it's one of those things where you're just always like, I wish I could go back and like cover the move. And
Yeah.
now when you have, sub 60 half marathon fitness, I think that gives you a little bit more confidence to be able to respond to those moves.
Absolutely. I think that's the biggest takeaway I have is that when there is like a move made at 420 something pace, it could be like, okay, I've ran, low 420s in a marathon. I can cover that and then slow back down to 445s or 450s or 455s. I think I was a little worried at New York because I didn't cover the move completely, but I ran like a 431 and just kind of was like, I'll catch him eventually. Then I ran a 438 and I was catching them, but I was like, oh, 438, crap, like that's much too fast. I gotta slow it down. And I overcompensated, slowed down a lot, ended with a lot more fuel in the tank. Um, and so I was like, okay, well, I should have just gone with the move. And so I think this kind of gives me that confidence that, okay, I can run with some of the top East Africans. Um, maybe not some of the top ones. Yeah, like I can go with some of these moves and just uh, try to be there. And I think that's what I really take from this is that when those moves are made, I can cover them, and I don't need to be worried about how I'm going to finish. I think another thing is like some of the top East Africans when a move is made like that, they just go with it, and like they don't even think about if they can or not, and so that's I think why they have a lot more of these insane times than we do as Americans is because they're always shooting for the stars, and probably 30% of the time it actually works, but I need to have that attitude I think if I'm going to actually compete up front.
All right, like this is something that
That was a
I feel like
lot.
the answer is yes, but like it's something that again you kind of what we were saying before. It's like putting it out there is one thing, and then backing it up is the hard part. Do you think you could win the Boston Marathon?
On my right day and some other people's not right day, yeah, I think so. But it might, I don't know. I think there's a possibility. I don't know. Like for this year, I think there's a possibility. I think in the future, I'm pretty confident that one day I could do it. This year, I don't know. Like
I
the
had to look
goal,
at the start list to see because like so I'm looking
it's
it up.
packed,
Obviously, Cisse Lemma is a 201.48 guy, like pretty
right?
good. Won this race last year. John Career's coming off 204, 202
Here too.
in Chicago. Evan Chabet, he's an animal. And then like there's a bunch of guys between 203 and where you are with 207.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like people have to start thinking of you more after this performance as like a 206, 205 guy. And in Boston, those guys can win.
Right, right. And I don't, yeah. I mean, I don't really look too much at my time in the marathon and think that's who
No,
I am. I look at it like as I'm a guy who was eighth at the Olympics and sixth at New York, and in a crazy competitive year for New York. Um, and so I'm like, if I all I need to do is like, continue doing what I'm doing to get fit, and then on the race day, I think I need to just I don't know, execute just a. Actually, I need to execute a lot better than my last Boston, but I need to execute a little bit better than New York, and I think, yeah, if I can be in that pack in the top three, I'd be pretty happy about that. I think at these majors, half the guys aren't healthy, didn't have a perfect build. I think New York was kind of an anomaly in that way, because yeah, maybe Tola didn't have like the best build, but the only person I can think of who was like on my mind before the race that I was worried about that I'd be was Bashir Abdi. I think everybody else are like that was like in the top of the world that I was like, I don't know, the guys I was worried about, they all ended up performing really well. So
I'm trying to pull up and see. I think of the guys who beat you in New York, is is Chibet I think Chibet's the only one that you're gonna see in Boston. Yeah,
is Abdi Nagai not in it?
he's doing London. Oh, it's Albert Career and Evans Chibet. Only two
Okay.
guys from New York that beat you there that you'll see in Boston.
Okay, that's interesting. I don't know.
It gets those wheels spinning.
Yeah, I'd like to beat both those guys, but Sisei Lama's gonna be hard to beat with how he ran last year. Or
Yeah,
if he
and then
runs the same.
he ran okay, I think, in Valencia as well. Not his best, but
Yeah, yeah. I think he was 10th at Valencia, right?
I think so.
204
Yeah.
high. Four of the guys that beat him, I beat at the Olympics, so not that you can really extrapolate it like that, but um, it's kind of funny.
David Monty, literally, as we're sitting here, just tweeted. He says, "We need to start talking about Conner Mantz in 2:05:38." It's on your mind, right?
Oh yeah, I feel a little bit bad because the last time we talked, it was like right after New York got announced. Or no, it was right before New York got announced, and I was like, I want to go for a fast one, maybe Tokyo, maybe
Yeah.
oh, it was Tokyo
Rotterdam or like one of those
Rotterdam or
European
Valencia or
fast
something.
ones, right?
Yeah, but then yeah, when I was thinking about what major to do this spring, or what marathon to do this spring, um, went down to the majors just because those are the ones that treat you the best. From what I understand, I've never really raced the marathon that wasn't at a major, other than the Olympics and Olympic trials. Um, but when I was thinking it through which one to do, and I decided like, okay, one, like, I really wanted to do Boston. It's an American race. There's definitely things about that are enticing. Um, and I was like, but then Boston's not record eligible. So I was like, do I really want to do Boston? But then in my mind it was, well, I can go for a record at Houston, go for a half record there, then make Boston about racing, and then in the fall, I'll decide on what marathon then, but like go for a record and make it like all about running a fast time.
You're a Nike
But
athlete. I think people can put
that
two and two together.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Although now that I say that, maybe New York's gonna come and get me
Yeah,
a
New
good
York is
wage
just
from
going to
the
be like,
NBA.
hey,
All right.
Connor, here's all this money. What do you think?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Sam
You know,
Grotwald, you've got his
Mark.
number.
Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, I mean, I'll let Ray and Sam work that out. But yeah, whoever. I'll weigh out all the options and let my agent figure out a lot of those things. But yeah,
What
I'm
did you
not.
think of seeing Bia run 2:06 in Valencia last year? Because
It,
it knocked you off of being the fastest American of last year.
right, right. So I was so happy because I was like, I'm gonna end this year like as my third year at the fastest American time. I was like, I might go my whole pro career, or like first 10 years or something like big, and be the fastest American all these years. Um, Even if like other people are running like really good performances in Boston and New York, I might still run these faster times. And then Bia just destroyed my time by like a minute and a half. But it was in a way encouraging. Originally, it was a little like discouraging because I was like, dang it, like what the heck? Like I was supposed to end the year as the fastest American, but then it ended up being very encouraging because Clayton actually brought this up to me. He's like, of the top 9 in Valencia, 5 of them were in the Olympics. We beat 4 of them. The only one we didn't beat was Gebru. Wait, no, he was second in Valencia, Ethiopian, 5th at the
I don't know off
Olympics.
the top of my head.
I can't remember his name. I had it down. Um, I should know the 5th guy at the Olympics name. Um,
I'll
but
pull it up while you explain.
yeah, he ran 2:02 and he was only 45 seconds ahead of me at the Olympics. And then the rest of the guys I beat, and I beat him by, I don't know, at least, I mean, Clayton was the next closest guy to me, and it wasn't Clayton, so I beat them all by at least 30 seconds. Probably closer to like a minute. So it was kind of encouraging, being like, okay, Bia's this good, but the guys I was beating this year are this good. And if you're just going off that race, and that was kind of encouraging, and it was nice to see an American that I race against that I'm friends with run really well. So between like seeing these guys run really well who I've beaten before, and then Bia run really well who I'm like, okay, like a little discouraging because it takes out that like top American time for me, but it is encouraging because it's like, okay, Bia's getting better and I get to compete against this guy. And I feel like the best marathon I can race is a faster marathon. Like when it's an honest race and there's more people in it. And so part of me just started thinking about the 2028 Olympic trials and, what do I have to do to make sure I make those games?
I found it. It was Duressa Galeta was 5th at the Olympics from Ethiopia.
I knew it started with a G.
Yeah. The one thing that stood out to me from the first episode I think that we put out was you talking about like how you want to run like well into your 39. I think it was one of the Olympics. It's like way out in the future. When did this idea start? That was the first time I think I'd ever heard you say that.
I think it just started when I was at BYU and everyone was like, oh yeah, Eyestone ran pro until he was like 40 years old. So I was like, I want to do that. And then you saw like Kipchoge is 40, 41?
Yeah.
He's not older than that, is he?
He's 40. He's 40.
He's 40, okay. I mean, Kira's 40, and yeah, in a way, there's a lot of really good athletes like in the marathon who are older, and I'm like, you know what? Like, I care about like my performance, but I want to be good for a long time. I want to do this as long as I can, but I don't know. That would be what I would want to do. Neb Keflezighi is another great example. Probably the best example of somebody who was able to do it so long. So I've reached out to him and he's given me some tips, just little things to do to stay healthy to help with longevity.
I don't even want to do the math. If that works out perfectly, how many Olympic teams would that be for you?
Works out perfectly. Like, that would be 4.
4? Okay.
Yeah.
And then I did do some light math before. Ryan Hall's American record stood for 18 years. That means if this one stands for 18 years, maybe you lower it a couple times, but if this is it...
Yeah, I would need to lower it a few times. I would need to lower it a lot for it to stand that long.
What do you think the American record, so 18 years from now, what do you think the American record in the half marathon will be in 2043?
Oh, wow. That's a different, like, I mean, I just think of, you go 18 years.
It sounds like such a fake year. Like,
yeah.
In my head, I see like flying cars and spaceships like in 2043, even though it's probably not that far off, but it just sounds like a cartoon number.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And it's weird because it's like whoever has that, like...
That person might not be... Well, that person might be like...
They'll be born, but they'll be young. They could. Or it could be just...
That kid is competing at New Balance Nationals this year and doesn't know that he's going to break the half marathon American record that year.
Right. It's... Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking of, how much of an effect the Vaporfly had.
And, like what's going to be on their feet in 2023?
Yeah, it's like if the Nike Vaporfly made, like, a minute difference in a half marathon or a 30-second difference, like, it's probably going to... And people are just getting better. People are doing better training. I don't think I'm the most talented by any means. I think there's somebody who's going to be, more talented, and they're going to have figured out training. They're going to be better at training. They're going to be better at listening to their coach and not get injured from running too fast on a 200. They're going to do things, I don't know. There's going to be somebody doing it better. So I want to say like probably low 58s.
Okay.
Probably faster. That
At one point, you guys were at 58:17 pace during the race, right? Wasn't it through 15K or something like that?
I don't think we were that fat. If we were, then man, I really faded.
No, it was,
maybe we
no,
were
actually
like
no. That was a typo.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. Last thing. Are you worried? I guess for then when someone like Grant Fisher takes a stab at this record, because like we know what he's run on the track. He's beaten the likes of like a Yomif Kajelcha, who has the world record. And it's like, I feel like the men's half marathon record could start to look a little bit more like the progression we've seen on the women's side, where it's like, okay, Emily Sisson, Wayne Colati, like they started taking stabs at it, and now it's, it's gone down 4 times in the last 4 years. That
Right.
maybe it could happen to the men's side too now.
That's a good point. It probably will. Like Grant
Woody
Fisher.
wants to give it a shot.
That's true. That's true. Like, I mean, a lot of these guys could break it. Grant is on. I don't know. When Grant goes for, I want to be in that race. That's another race. Because I'd be like, let me defend my record the best way I can. I don't just want to be watching the sideline as it goes down.
If we do Road to Houston season 2 next year, where it stars Grant and then you, I think that's perfect. I think everyone would watch that one.
Oh man, a lot of people would watch that because Grant is probably gonna. I have a lot of respect for Grant, so I don't want to be too much of a fanboy there. But man, that guy can. His 26:33 is just insane to me when I think about that. And so I'm like, man, that could, like, with that talent in the 10K and the way he trains, and he's living in Park City at like higher altitude. Yeah, he could definitely run something crazy. But
We'll have to wait and see.
yeah,
Do you think like,
or maybe not, and maybe this record does stay in 18 years, but I highly doubt it.
and in the grand scheme of things, do you feel like you still keeping one foot on the track when you do jump into the 10K and all that stuff benefited a lot to being able to pull this thing off? Because like if we look at some of the other guys, like Clayton hasn't raced on the track in a long time. Joe is coming off of it. He'll still do one more track season. But you're different from a lot of the marathoners in how they approach. Like the guys that were around you, like I can't remember last time like Gabriel Gay was in a 10K on the track. Like a lot of those guys are just roads guys, but you've kept a couple opportunities to just be able to still race on the track.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Like it would be. I'd probably look at the results and be like, all right, of the top 10 guys, like how many of those guys raced on the track within the last like 2 years? I think it's probably less than 50%.
Yeah, that would make sense. Oh man, now you have me thinking. Like, is racing on the track a good thing? Maybe, or maybe I need to race on it more because I'm losing road races by less than, or I'm losing road races.
You need to work on your lean. That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
All right, Connor. Well, thanks as always for jumping on and recapping this. We'll probably do one after Boston as well because you're on one right now, and so you're officially one of the CITIUS Mag co-hosts.
All right, I love it. Thanks for having me, Chris.